Hello, thank you for joining the roundtable. The discussion is going to be the integration of Dynamics 365 with Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power BI. I just want to introduce myself. So my name is Shaariq. I'm from Amicus. I tend to recruit for Dynamics CRM CE consultants in Germany and Netherlands. Just want to obviously give that introduction for me. Seb, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi. I'm Sebastian Dombrowski, and I'm responsible for a dynamic CRM environment at Wacom. We are a manufacturing company for mainly graphic tablets components, but we also offer software, especially in the signature area. Um, yep.
Nice. And Ornel, you next.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Frank, founder, CEO, and CTO currently of WORA Tech in Frankfurt. We provide IT services and IT consultancy too. We do also develop business solution and software. And we are currently, since we receive a lot of offers from the markets in direction dynamics, we are currently also exploring some use case and some POC on platform. Developing business tools and see what the market can provide us in terms of partnership and or solutions.
Nice. Thank you for that. And Jan, yourself?
Hi, I'm Jan-Frederik Kobus. I'm the lead for Power Platform Solutions within DTNext, the company founded in 2022. And we develop mainly solutions for or integrate with Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations and Business Central. So that integration we already develop. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you for introducing yourselves. We'll obviously talk about the topic, like I mentioned, was the integration of Dynamics 365 within Power Platform, Power Automate. The first question that I did have on the agenda was how do you guys use Power Platform in projects currently, or previously as well? Do you want to take the lead, John, or?
You mean me?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Before DTNext, I've been integrating Power Platform already in the 365, extending CE, for example, of course, with Power Platform, with Power Automate, extending Business Central with Power Platform. The last 3 years, I think we've been extending Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations, which is quite a complex system. With solutions, for example, we develop an own IP solution, output management. Like if you have, many companies, when using Dynamics 365, they need to send invoices, they need to send all type of certifications and documents to the customers. And it's basically always the same. You need to send an invoice, a packing slip, whatever, a certification document. And with the solution, you're able to create document sets for each and every customer with their own specifications. And whenever a logistic file, now if you know the term, when you deliver something from your sales contract, the document set is also automatically produced, sent to the customer, and printed out. Well, that's one of the solutions. You're using quite a lot of virtual entities from Dynamics 365 and a lot of business rules. Another solution we're currently deploying now for a large company is an approval framework. So within Business Central or Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations, the whole approval for approving invoices, approving sales contract, purchase contract, whatever needs to be approved, it always stays within Finance and Operations, meaning that whenever someone needs to approve something, he needs to have a license, he needs to be in Dynamics 365. And we've got many users that are outside the system, but still need to approve, like, for example, if the value of a sales contract exceeds a credit limit, then you need to set it to the credit limit department. And for this, we created a solution that picks up the data from Dynamics 365 creates an overview of all of the data that's accompanied with it, sales contract, purchase contract, it calculates the margin, creates a PDF, sends it to the approver, and the approver can then say yes or no to the sales contract without the need for going into the system, without the need for getting all of the data together. Previously, the company did it in Excel. We all know people love Excel, but it's not the perfect way of doing it. And what it helps the company is that you create an approval flow with all of the Dynamics data. And because it's all based on the Dynamics data, also the approval and all the related data is being stored again in Dataverse. So you've got a full audit trail of what happened to that sales contract, what happened to that approval, and it all stays within the Microsoft ecosystem. So, and the next project we're doing is like, I don't know if you've heard of all those systems that are in the world available, these Kansas systems. So scanning incoming invoices, matching it to the say to the purchase contracts, and then of course all those systems have their own approval workflows. Oh, we do a cut, like the matching is done within that system, and we use Power Platform to send all of those unmatched items via the approval flow to the end user to be approved. Other solution? Trading. But you can also use it for support or self-server, so to say. We use Power Pages, formerly known as Power Portals, of course, Power Pages to create portals for the customers where they can query their orders, approve new requests from the company, and have an overview of outstanding orders, incoming orders, etc. So we integrate Power Pages into Dynamics 365 to extend the reach of Dynamics 365 to the end user, but then outside of the company. This is a bit of an overview types of things we're doing with Power Platform, but they are basically enterprise solutions we create with it.
Yes, you can already see me nodding a lot because I'm also working on an approval system right now. That's quite funny. Yeah. Last year we rolled out a very large discount management within Dynamics with Power Automate, Power App, AI Builder, like everything that you can use to facilitate that. But due to time constraints in the project, we just implemented the very rudimentary hard-coded Teams approval. And now I'm currently expanding the system and making it scalable globally. So I'm basically trying to build like a configurable multi-level approval system with conditions, substitute functions, and a Power App so that people outside of the system can put in their vacation times. So there's an automatic substitute system, then approval logs, and yes, as you mentioned, Dataverse, perfect for that. And the flow template so that I can just, if a different business unit comes along and also needs an approval for similar processes, I can just copy the flow and then switch out the conditions and just look at a different region, different conditions, and then I'm already ready to go without having to completely rebuild the whole flow and approval system again. So I'm very much on the same use case as you right now.
Nice. And regarding the, say, out of office function, like what we do is we've got a separate platform for the thresholds, who's responsible for the approval for what. This is a separate Power Platform environment. And it's all based on your availability in Outlook. And so the arrays of approvers I get also have an indication, is he out of office, yes or no? That the moment someone needs to select the approver, he only gets those who are available in his list to be. So there's an embedded Canvas app with the data, and there he needs to select the approvers, but only the approvers that are available for that specific day are being shown then.
That's nice. For us,
And
it's
allowed for approval.
sorry.
And of course, allowed for approvals.
Yes. For us, it's more based on whatever's in the opportunity or in the table. There are like certain option set, and then like if it's a project and direct business, then the approver is this person, and all this configuration is in a separate table in the background. So you have like automatic approval matrix, and then the person has a separate table that's showing them in a Canvas app. And then they can say, oh, I'm on vacation there. Oh, I'm on sick. And they just like have a sick button, and then they can like pick days, and then they're automatically on sick, and their determined substitute will get picked as soon as a new approval comes in.
Okay. Yeah, it's also a solution. Yeah.
Yeah.
We did.
And
Someone else is sorry?
I just wanted to piggyback real quick on CB and on the use case that you just highlighted. Does that make sure, or does it automatically make sure that the substitute person also have the same rights, or is it some case of automatically?
Yes, it makes sure that when they pick the substitute and they update the record, a flow goes in and gives them the security rights to do that. Yeah.
So the person or the manager have actually to approve that.
Oh. Yes.
That's nice.
In our case, the company decided to create another environment in this environment. So I need to do a HTTP call to this environment. And based on the type of contract, based on the type of flow, I do a specific request to the platform. And it sends over 2 arrays of approvers. That's based on thresholds, the amount of the sales contract, of course, but also like what country is it going to, what type of material is being traded, etc. So the whole logic, so I just need to send a couple of data over, and it gives me back 2 arrays. So the logic there is completely separately maintained.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's very similar.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I hope that you all took something from obviously the experience that you guys have. It's good to see that obviously Jan and Seb are working very similar projects and hopefully took something from the experience. But no, it's interesting. I do want to move on to the next question, if that's okay. It's just about what are the key considerations when deciding to integrate Power Platform within Dynamics? Especially from an organization perspective?
That's a good question. Yeah. So Microsoft says you shouldn't touch Dynamics 365, not for the very part like if you want to customize it with Power Platform implementation. And that might be true, meaning that if it's just a couple of fields, leave it in the 365. Okay, so no. But if you're going to do serious stuff, then yes, of course, Power Platform might be the proper solution. But some considerations you need to take into account is that not everything will work with Power Platform connected to Dynamics 365. There are a lot of functions that need to be triggered within these 365 that are not available within the Power Platform. There are, for example, some dynamic functions specifically within finance and operations or in Business Central that you cannot touch upon. You could touch upon it, but then you need to expose it and make sure that the logic being used within the Power Platform is exactly the same as the logic, what will happen within Dynamics 365. So there are quite a limitations. And what's also, I think, worthwhile mentioning is that, yes, if you're creating a solution outside of Dynamics 365, it stays within, of course, the whole platform, but your whole testing procedure will expand. And it will become more complex. So you really need to deviate between, okay, we're doing a test within D365, But the effect of everything you do within that system will also have an effect within your Power Platform solution. And so your alignment, it's going to be more intense. That's one thing. And your whole testing procedure will extend also to the Power Platform. And with all of the projects we did now, is that it's difficult to split. It's difficult to split the testing procedure between the two environments. Most of the times you need to do an integrated testing. And this is where it comes to place like, okay, what was the issue? Was the issue the input of the user in the contract, or in that data entity, what it did in the Dynamics 365, or is it my Power Element flow that's not working properly, or is it some calculations not being properly done within the Canvas app, or did I do some difficult settings in a model-driven app that has an effect on my Canvas app, etc. It's a bit more complex, I think.
Do you feel as if there's a lot more testing that would need to be involved when it comes to the integration of Power Platform? Because it does depend on obviously the modules, I guess.
I always try to when we create a solution architecture, I would like to stick to the default finance and operations connectors or to the BC connectors. The problem is they're not always sufficient enough, and the performance is not always great, so to say. I mean, getting data out of a F&O connector when using it in a flow sometimes can take up to 20 seconds. If you have a virtual entity, it's a couple of seconds, say 2 seconds or something. If you stick to the finance and operations connectors, as an example, you are limited in many cases. But the good thing about it is you know exactly where does F&O end and where does Power Platform starts. So you can really say make a split in your testing. But if you're using virtual entities, it's so tightly integrated that you can't make that split anymore. And this is so normally what you do is with those integrated systems, you end, say, where the API stops. So you define a proper API and what the outcome of the API is and all the controls on the API, and also when the data comes in on the API, and that's your border, so to say. And there you can split the testing process on the core system, see the ERP system, for example, and then you can split the test on the Power Platform solution. It's becoming a bit more difficult if you're using the virtual entities or dual write. So yeah, I think testing it's becoming a bit more complex with the Power Platform solutions integrated.
No, thank you for that input. I think it's really helpful, especially with myself, to kind of understand how businesses, what kind of process the business have to do when it comes to obviously the integration side of things. And I didn't realize that so much testing has to be done, and especially when it's on, for example, the ERP system or the Power Platform system. I thought it would all kind of be together, but I didn't realize it was obviously the two.
Well, I'm very curious. Sebi, Sebastian, he created also this Power Platform approval solution. What the testing for him was, or how difficult it was.
Actually, I encountered some issues between Canvas apps and embedded Canvas apps in model-driven apps before, so that the behavior in the Canvas app was different than the behavior when it was embedded. And I also had like issues then with moving it through different environments. So testing got more complex with multiple environments, and also we had to. Usually we are doing like a very quick internal QA, and then we are pushing it to our UNT environment and have some key users. And then they will do like most of the testing because we are a very small team. But that was just not as feasible because they wouldn't be able to like catch certain issues, and like the monitoring was worse as soon as you have like multiple environments or different apps. So it was harder to monitor stuff. So we put in place more and more error, like catching error plugins in Dynamics, or more things to find errors in flows and everything. Pretty much just more monitoring on our own. So we created like a separate table where we would write in like confirmation or monitoring steps from our like most critical flows, so we can just see if something goes wrong like in a table, and then just have a daily export of that as a report, as an email, so we can just monitor, especially like new flows that are critical between the landscapes. So yeah, I agree. Like testing is more complex, and sometimes you get weird artifacts, especially with embedded Canvas apps. So right now, I like to use Canvas apps, especially when it's about giving a user something on their phone. So if I have a reason to give them like a mobile app, and it's just like for certain user groups. So for example, we have an app where they can do QR scans and then add assets to the system, and they just need it in the warehouse, right? They just need to go somewhere, scan it, open the record in the system, and edit it or something. And that's the only thing that they are doing in Dynamics. So then I love to give them a Canvas app. And it doesn't have to be embedded. They don't even need to go into CRM at all. That's my main use for Canvas apps. I have a few embedded ones, but they are always a little bit troublesome.
So I've got one embedded one. Well, just imagine the following, like in Dynamics. So in any ERP system, you're working on a sales contract, a logistic file, or a purchase contract. The screen is full of data, but it's only data about the purchase contract, or the logistic file, or the sales contract, or whatever you're working on. And the end user wants to have an integrated overview for that specific contract related to all of the other data. That's not possible in Dynamics. So you need to create a Canvas app, an embedded Canvas app. But this embedded Canvas app then, for example, needs to access data from 16 or 26 entities or tables. That can be cumbersome. The responsiveness can be very cumbersome, but also like, do I have the proper data? That's the thing. The end user thinks it's this field, but I don't care what field it is. Give me the field name and the proper entity, then I know what data I need to show. So that's difficult. And for your say auditing purposes, did you use the Center of Excellence?
No, we have this on our to-do list for like, I don't know, 2 years already, but we never got to it so far, because we had 2 big projects over the last years that were already forcing us into overtime a lot. So this is on the back burner. Do you use it? Is it good?
But we had a great project. It was a large university, and they wanted to experiment with Power Platform. So with a team of 4, we got 12 months time to develop 5 use cases to show that Power Platform has added value. It was complete greenfield. But the first thing we did, so we set up some guidelines like DOP policies, for example. And then we first set up the Center of Excellence. And I don't know if you're familiar with Center of Excellence, but the Center of Excellence is a great tool. It's a community platform that enables you to monitor all of your environments. And we had about 33 environments there within the university. And they opened up Power Platform for the end users before we were there. So there was not, say, guidance and no guidelines. So there were about 500 to 600 apps already in place using HTTP. And we know HTTP connector is like something like a gateway to hell, because you can access anything everywhere in the world. So we need to close down all type of connectors. And then the good thing about the Center of Excellence is it also gives you an overview of if you're closing down this connector, the following apps will be affected. So you get a complete list of apps that won't work anymore, which is good. And then you can contact the persons who created those apps. But it also gives you an overview, and this is so nice, of all of the flows that have failed in the past day, past week, past month. And it also gives you an overview of all of the apps that have been started or that have issues. So it's both a policy tool. It's also a monitoring tool. It's quite a good monitoring tool. And every organization that's using Power Platform or tends to use Power Platform should have this in place. This is a starter.
Yeah,
I know if you
yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Totally fine. I'm really delighted because I'm gaining so much experience already. But what I can say so far is that all the applications that we are developing per se right now are all greenfields. That's why all the input that you guys are already giving me, there are some alarms coming up already, meaning that we should be able actually to create some SOP or standard of operations or best practices from the beginning on. Because the approval use case was literally a no-brainer for us, because we are currently also trying to move away from our Excel first starts, because we tried actually to not go outside, since we have actually the competencies to build software. So I'm more of an IT. I'm come from the Java field, full stack field and everything, but with over 17 years of experience in the area developing warehouse management systems, some SAP, ERP, API, or different connectors, so far and so on. So let's say the way I view things, or the way I view software development nowadays, is just we have a use case, or the clients want us to develop something new, greenfield, or we need to develop some new software or connection. So what the client wants, what is the specification, if the technology makes sense, in this case, Java or Python or Dynamics or whatever the case may be, in this case, Power Apps, because since I said Java, we are coming a little bit more from the Power Platform or the Power Apps using the SDK. I'm not quite sure exactly what's the difference between Dataverse, because one of you said that a little bit earlier, and coming or having access onto the Dynamics via the Power Apps platform. That's actually a little bit more where we are going into some of our use cases. But I already gained some valuable knowledge in terms of end-to-end testing and monitoring, because it seems that both platforms are not so integrated or are not coming up with all those functionalities already into it. I just wanted to ask Jan, just real quick, can you tell a little bit more about this Center of Excellence again? Is it part of the Dynamics platform, or is it an external software?
Two things. First of all, Dynamics 365 and Power Platform are tightly integrated, very tightly integrated. But it doesn't make testing easier. So that is something I needed to correct. The Center of Excellence is a solution. You know, Power Platform solution consists of many modules, model-driven apps, canvas apps, Power Automate flows. And what it does is the following. You pinpoint one environment, which is your, say, management environment. So your master environment, so to say. And on that environment, you deploy the solution. You can download it for free. It's a community edition. And the moment you download it and you install it, a lot of apps, flows are being installed. What do? There are a lot of flows that monitor the usage of, for example, flows on other environments. So within that specific university, they had 33 environments. It monitors the performance of all of the flows on those environments. It gathers the data. It monitors how many users are present. It monitors how many licenses are being used. It monitors, for example, per environment, what connectors are in use. So you define data loss, DLP, data loss policies, or data loss prevention policies for each and every platform, for each and every environment, making sure that, for example, if you want to have a playground for your end users where they can play around with Cloud Platform, you only give access to everything which is connected to Office 365, so they can play around and they can create apps. But they are not able to create apps that have access to SAP or have access to the outside world, to the web, for example. And if you want to, we created a lot of solutions there. If you want a solution for a specific department, you put it on a specific environment, you give that environment but the required DOP policy, because we created, for example, for one department that they needed to have a connection to multiple external organizations. So there we needed to enable the HTTP, etc., custom connectors with outside connections, but it's just restricted to that environment, which was safe and it could be monitored. So the Center of Excellence, COE, it's in short, is something which is really, really helpful to make sure that you're in control of what's being developed on Power Platform.
Yes, especially if you want to have like community users, key users working in your environments, doing their own stuff. You pretty much, it's required. The reason why we didn't use it, first of all, my team is the only team right now that's using Power Platform and Dynamics. And we started pretty much from day one, and there was nothing back then, right? There was not even Dataverse back then. And we figured out very quick that we need naming conventions and we need to document all that stuff. So we use Confluence to put in like which tables, which fields our flows touch. So you can search if you add something or change something. So you can just search for the field name and then you can see, oh, this is already updated by this flow. I need to be careful and stuff like this. And since we already did this now for a couple of years, we weren't forced to do the switch, but we pretty much need to do it soon if we have some room and some time to do it. So right now we are actually, shout out to PowerDocu, which is a documentation app that you can just Google and get from GitHub, and you can upload your solution there, and it will do an export of like what your flow does, what your solution does, what your app does. And I'm actually like right now using it a lot, and I'm putting it in GPT, and then I'm just asking, hey, can you just extract me all the fields that I'm touching, all the tables and everything? And I'm using that to like speed up the manual process that I did for years now to have a better documentation. But yes, Center of Excellence is pretty much the way to go nowadays.
PowerDoc is really, really, really helpful. I always ask my team members also do the commenting in the code, because if you hand it over, to another person, but this applies always to software development, and you get this amount of code, and they say low code, but if you look in proper solutions, you will see a huge amount of lines. All type of collections are being created, the calculation being done. Please do make the comments that anyone who takes over this solution knows what's happening there. And
to be honest, I had flows like that I had to like redo or like troubleshoot from like 5-6 years ago, and I was so happy about my own comments, because I was like, how did I did this back then? Because like you had different actions, different connectors, so just going back into the own thing that you built, the comments and documentation also helped myself, my future self. So
we once did take over a solution of another company, and for support, it was wonderful. It worked wonderful. But if you look in the flow, those actions didn't have proper names. It was just apply to each one, apply to each two, apply to each three. We were like, oh no. First we were renaming everything that it makes sense what's happening there, Yeah, that's one thing. I just want to know that you said Confluence you're using. And is any one of you using DevOps?
Yes.
You are?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. What do you use it for?
For building application, we are, depending on some project lines, we actually use DevSecOps, not just DevOps. Well, we are currently using, I think we have some environments where we still use Jenkins for building our applications. We have some environments where we are using some Argo in order to deploy and manage some architectural instances, deploy this part of the microservices or application either on AWS or on Google Cloud or even on-prem, since we are also developing a couple of business solutions or services that we are developing in order to provide managed services. So that's why when I'm hearing you guys speaking, those are normal, let's say, software projects, I will say, even though I'm not quite sure if the architectural is quite similar to normal projects. But if you are using, let's say, a normal Git-based environment, you have your source code. Hopefully, since we were talking about approval and everything, hopefully your DevOps, your DevSecOps environment or steps make sure that first of all, your code is locally well or not well implemented, but at least saved in the code base, then synchronized with our central code base. Then, since we are also doing some staging, regardless of any works that each and every one of our developments or developer do on his own work, automatically we have some triggers. So as soon as you implement or as soon as you check or push some new codes, automatically goes into some before it even goes to QA, we have some dev environments, then we have QA and release candidates depending on the product line. So we are able also to run those tests automatically and receive some checks. Let's say if we have some code quality tests that aren't working, if the code that has been introduced is not backwards compatible, or if we have some integrational test, we also catch those already at the dev stage. So while you are talking, I was already actually looking at the fact that, okay, in terms of documentation and commentaries, okay, we can use, and we are actually using technologies such as SonarQube. I'm not quite sure if you're, or Defect Dojo is actually one that we are currently also introducing, because it's not just on, let's say, the way we code or the quality of the code, so how the class name, how the functions are named, so far and so on. If there is a certain amount of commenters or of comments, so far and so on. And based on those checks that we also received daily, and weekly, depending also on the critical part or critical models of certain business solution. Because again, one set of, in one project we can use Jenkins, in another project we can use also Circle CI. So we have the opportunity also to not just test different environment tools in the whole CI/CD pipeline, but we also have some different let's say staging tools or staging test suites per project. In some projects, the backends is more, or let's say the business logic on the backends is more focused on testing, let's say, the integration test. In some other projects where we are only focusing on seeing, let's say, if the solution that we develop in Angular is actually a little bit more faster than what we are developing in Vaadin. Vaadin is actually one Java-based solution that we've been using in certain projects, and is totally in Java. Literally, they also provide both client-based and server-based components. That's why it's a little bit more easy for, let's say, new comer or new developer to stick to the technology that they already know and start developing both, let's say, full stack web applications. So that's one solution. And we do test different environments, and the most important thing is literally, regardless if greenfield or already existing project, that we definitely have at least a basic CI/CD pipeline. Because some of those issues that you guys mentioned earlier can be or might be actually picked up if set up properly. Because it doesn't make sense actually. Well, it do make sense actually to let's say create a CI/CD pipeline. But let's say if you create a project, you set up a CI/CD pipeline, and the pipeline is only responsible to build the project. Build the projects. We don't have any checks on the code quality. We don't have any checks whatsoever on, let's say, the performance, on how fast we build some websites or some modules. It doesn't make much sense or make much difference when you can even gain, let's say, well, when you can't even work with the results that you get at the end of the pipeline. If you just
well, the CI/CD pipeline won't do any performance measuring of a, say, app. It will only check for, can we build this solution in the new environment? And it has some quality checks. But if it will never check something like, will your website be responsive? Doesn't.
Exactly. Meaning it's nice to use let's say a CI/CD pipeline, but it has to make sense. You have to have some gains.
Well, there are pipelines. There are two types of pipelines. That's why I was asking for Azure. And it's one thing I want to touch upon also is, like, we've got the Azure platform, and we've got, of course, the whole pipeline discussion. So Power Platform has got its own pipeline, say, it's so to say, Azure Pipelines, the mini version will do perfectly fine for most of the solutions. But the moment you're working with larger teams on a Power Platform solution, then you really need to get over to the Azure Pipelines and use that one, which is perfectly well and works great. We use both. And so for simple projects, we take the Power Automate pipelines. Sebastian, I don't know if you're using it. It's fine. And it builds your solution, and it will check for all type of elements within your solution, dependencies, and it's being deployed to the other environment. Yeah.
Yes,
One thing.
we are only 2 devs and 3 technical consultants, so we are perfectly fine with a small team to just use the Power Platform once. There are some hiccups sometimes, but it's so rare, and you can usually solve them very quick that we never had any big issues with that.
Not related
The only
to
thing
Python.
I'm missing always in a discussion about integrating D365 like Business Central or EP or whatever with our platform is Azure. And here it comes. Imagine the following. We're also working on another solution. I didn't mention it before. There's a company, a logistic company, and it's got around about 6 to 10 million transactions per month. Okay, so it's 1.5 to 2.5 transactions per week. But it's being processed only on a couple of days. So you got a huge amount of traffic, and we need to aggregate it and then send the data over to Dynamics 365 ERP. And it comes from some sort of, I think it's a Java system from the back office. It's been working there, it's running there for years now. And it sends huge files over and over and over. They asked us, okay, create a Power Platform solution for that. Yeah? They heard of it, like, oh, you can do this in Dataverse, and you can create a whatever app, and then the outcome of the solution will send the data then to Business Central. It's Business Central, the Dynamics 365. And then we said, no, we're not going to do it only within the Power Platform. And there comes in place Azure. So what we said is like, okay, the high volume part, we handle in Azure. So data lake, data factory, Azure functions, way faster than Power Automate flows. And only the exceptions are being thrown out to Dataverse, being handled there via an app, sent back to Data Factory. And from there, another Azure function is sending the data to Dynamics 365. Meaning the performance increases huge. Dataverse is, okay, it is good, but it's the most expensive storage part of the whole Microsoft ecosystem. So we try to reduce the amount of storage capacity being used by Dataverse to the max. If you store it in a data factory of whatever storage you're going to use within Azure, there are low-cost, high-volume storage possibilities there. And compared to Dataverse, it's only a fraction of the cost of Dataverse. But also the speed of processing in, say, the Azure platform is way higher. And what we notice is that not so many companies use Azure as an extension of the Power Platform, because you can do so much more with Azure functions, with Azure services, so to say. So we are more and more also sometimes going away from Power Platform or from Power Automate and put that whole logic in Azure functions. Yeah? Logic apps can also be used, but Logic apps is also expensive. And Azure functions are, for example, a perfect extension on top of Power Automate flows.
Yes, we are actually using them for our contact table because the table got so huge and it's hit by the most integrations. So we have we actually have an app, and the app data comes from a separate place. So, and they are hitting contact data all the time. So the contact tables actually got quite slow over the years. And so we are completely avoiding any plugins, any flows, or anything that fires and pulls data or updates data there if we can. So that's all done via Logic apps and Azure functions because we are just too scared to put anything else onto this table. And also, if somebody sends you a mass update, you just don't want to like make a mistake and accidentally like trigger 10,000 flows or something. So yeah, that's what
nice,
we are using
nice.
it for. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can do so much more. I once had a project and there was a very, very complex calculation. So in Power Automate, we all know it's low code. So it's for the end user, you can drag and drop all type of actions. Okay. This complex calculation required 250 objects in a Power Automate flow, just to make sure that the end of the calculation was correct. In Azure Function, there was 20 lines of code.
Yep.
Running in 0.13 seconds or something, and compared to the whole flow, which was running in a couple of minutes. So, and it's always say you need to consider: will I do this in Power Automate, or can I just create a Azure function or a logic app that goes way faster? Yeah.
No, that's really interesting to know. As I mentioned, I hope obviously you all took something from that discussion. I thought that it was quite interesting in terms of the Azure side of things. Do you kind of notice a lot more companies use Azure, or is it just because of it being expensive, they would refrain from using it?
What? So sorry, could you repeat the question again?
Yeah, so would are more companies using Azure as Azure platforms, Azure functions within more, or would you say it's just expensive for companies to
No,
use?
no, 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 no. It's not expensive in that case. It can be expensive, of course, if you don't monitor it.
Okay.
Then, if you keep things running, yeah, then you will throw your money to Microsoft. But if you keep monitoring it, then you're still in charge. Now it's the complexity of the Azure platform. So you really need to have experts. So, like, okay, Power Platform is low code. Anyone can create an app. It's not a good app, but they at least think they've created an app and they can build it. But if you put someone behind a keyboard and a screen and say, "So here's your Azure portal. I've got an account for you. Good luck." He's not able to do anything there because it's too complex. The amount of services is huge. He doesn't know where to start. So it's also with companies. You need to have a proper architecture up front before starting Azure. Yeah. The whole setup of Azure requires, like with another company, they hired a service provider. It took them 6 months to create a Azure architecture before allowing us to build on top of that platform. Okay, no, you can't use that storage. You must use that storage. You must go via that VPN. You must set up, etc., etc., etc. If you ask anyone within a company, they don't know what you're talking about because it's abracadabra for them. So that's hindering companies from using Azure. It's the complexity and the level of knowledge you need to have in-house to be able to use Azure. And we try to leverage that expertise within the companies by doing the first landing zones, simple landing zones where they can have a start, and we can start using Azure for those, say, activities where we think better to do it in Azure instead of in Power Platform.
Yes. The only thing that I can add to it is that, of course, it's also preferential from teams to teams. When you also have like feature teams and you allow, or in terms of diversity, or a set of developers of work with this kind of tools or this type of tool for so many years and so far and so on. So at a certain level, or at least at the C level, you may actually choose based on that. Okay, the experience actually from your people and trying to, let's say, please everyone, which might not actually make sense somewhat. So but the first thing, I mean, I do agree with Jan. First, you have to have the competencies in-house. If not, you always have actually this unknown component that, okay, you will have actually to hire external forces, which means time, costs that you might not actually be able to predict. So, and I think one of the, well, concerning us, we tend to go, or let's say the couple of decisions that we had lately was mostly driven also from the regulation part, meaning Jan also said it earlier, IP. So we did have the opportunity actually to work with some German governments, and let's assume that requirements or compliance over there is like really the highest. We will make sure, let's assume, we want to make sure that the data is owned by us, regardless on how performant, and I really emphasize this point.
Sure. That's a good question. Yeah.
So in this case, it might not be actually, and I can believe that I say it out loud. In some cases, the cost factor is not even the point. The other factor might be, okay, it's all about compliance, GDPR. We have to secure our data and make sure that no third party is actually using our data. So the technology might be good or even more performant than what you can use, but since you might have actually some compliance issues due to some regulations, you might not actually use the technologies. And since also,
well, you can use it. You can use it.
Exactly.
We had the same.
It's some certain restriction. But this is actually one not a problem, but actually one issue that we actually try to use in going, okay, good. If we can use the solution on premise with certain restriction, then it might be good. But yeah, Jan, you wanted to add something.
Yeah. It not only applies to, say, regulations that are quite high, compliance, etc. We did a project for a company last year, and they did a lot of research on solar technology. Okay, many people working on that technology and did research on that technology, and we created a great AI solution, really fantastic, I must say. It wasn't me building it; my team did it. But they said it's all nice and well. You can use Azure, whatever you want, but it's all research data, and we don't want any other company to have access to it. So we created some sort of a super secure Azure environment that even we, if we wanted to work on that environment, we needed to go over that client because you only had access from that specific IP. The disadvantage was, of course, if you're building this, say, secure environment, that specific services aren't available. You need to go to a higher tier of service. So the whole cost of Azure will rise too. That's something we noticed that initially it was, it was a company of, was it 80 or 90 employees, but there are only 3 of them in Europe. And what we initially calculated was around about 1,500 euros monthly cost for Azure consumption. But then with their requirements, it ended up in 5,500 just for Azure consumption. Because now you're only allowed with this setup as 3-tier services from storage, from this, from that, and then the cost per month exploded. So that was a pity. Well, it was very secure. Yeah, it was very secure. That it was
possible then.
Yeah.
But interesting use case.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, at least air-gapped solution, was it?
Sorry?
Was it an air gap solution then? Can it be considered as an air gap solution without any outside?
Oh, I
Without
don't
any
know the
possibility
term air
actually to use
gap.
it outside?
Do you say air gap? What did you say?
Air gap, air gap. Can it be considered as an air gap solution since you can actually use it outside your own network?
You can't use it outside your own network. No, you can't. It can only be used within the network. It is an AI solution based on the research data. 12 years of research data accessed with Azure OpenAI. Make sure that I think 6,000 research documents, PowerPoint files, Excel files, and Word documents, which is really, really hard to search through if you don't have this tooling, was now being made available with a Power App and Azure OpenAI. So just as an example, and which is very confidential information, of course. So that's why we need to build some sort of a huge firewall around this Azure solution. An example, before we started, they hired in German, they say Azubi, intern. Yeah, an intern. And it took her 4 or 5 days to find 8 documents about a specific topic. Like, if you've got 12 years of research, say how thin must the layer be or whatever, and it took her 4 days to find those documents. After we implemented our solution, it took 8 seconds. It was just like asking a question, and then in 8 seconds, here are the 8 documents. This research has been done before, and it was documents like 2012, 2014, etc. And you could start further deep diving into these documents. It was nice. It was a nice project. It's a nice project, yeah.
That's the use case. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I was really, really proud about the project. Yeah. Yeah. I think time's up now, isn't it?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel as if we have gone through all the questions, but without asking the question, I feel as if the topics are just flowed quite nicely, in my opinion. I just wanted to know if you guys want to ask any other questions to each other that we haven't discussed, or anything that you want to help out with, if that's okay.
I have actually a question. What's at the top of your wish list for Microsoft to implement for Power Platform?
Proper testing tool.
Yes, please.
Playwright is nice, but it's not what it should be. No.
Yes. So are you using Azure Test Plans?
So we started using the Power Platform test tooling, but it's not sufficient enough. No.
Mm-hmm.
No. So that's one thing. It's my main wish. Yeah.
So Playwright is not good enough. Any other interesting platform?
No, it's not. It's not good enough. It's not good. No.
Interesting. In our case, I think I mentioned earlier some productivity app. I think those are mainly easy. Well, I actually have two cases in mind. One should be actually literally getting access to several how do we call it again? Several exchange online instances. Get access to several different accounts, and depending on the hierarchical level, just produce some statistic data. So in order to literally see, okay, from all those instances, from all those licenses that we use, how much of the software or of the business application or let's say user application that we have are we really using from those licenses? So some kind of productivity data. And another one which is actually higher on my list will be also somehow to build the administration data, not just it can be similar, just a case. So somehow building, let's say, nice to have UI with some admin functionality and just bridge it, or let's say bridge this application using the admin API in order to either create some new accounts, applying some aliases, so far and so on. So, and maybe just to automate some ITSM tasks. So this is what we are playing around at the moment.
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult one. Would be nice though. Would be nice if it would be implemented in the Center of Excellence.
Pardon?
It would be nice if they would implement that also in the Center of Excellence as a toolkit.
Mm-hmm.
There's already a lot there. I don't know specifically if this requirement would be fulfilled in one of the tools in the Center of Excellence, because it's constantly expanding. But you do mean the licenses. You do mean like, okay, we've got Office 365 licenses, we've got D365 licenses, and who's using what?
Yeah. From the application. So based on the user.
Yeah, from the application. What do you mean? Because Azure has got a huge license overview, of course.
Yeah. For instance, from one of our A3 licenses, so how much space is used from, let's say, 30 users from this department? How much of the let me think. How much of the SharePoint or OneDrive data storages might be used all over a certain department, for instance.
Okay.
In order to make some decision afterwards, okay, can we actually either use some other solution in order to save our data, or literally trying to make use costs view in order to base some decision on the license actually to purchase. Because nowadays, or at least currently, there is also a huge palette on licenses from Microsoft that you can actually choose from, instead of using, let's say, one business solution, or how much more.
Very difficult.
Exactly.
It's very difficult.
So the main idea will be first to create an overview, who use what and how much, in order to have a certain cost analysis in one part, and the other part will be, okay, based from that analysis, what can we, if we can sit actually with the purchasing department and see, okay, can we actually use this license for this type of use case instead of using this overall license for example, the H3 or I think the Plan 2, which give us a bunch of applications that are not used by the people. Cost analysis.
I'm going to think about it, because there are quite a lot of overviews available already. I'm going to think about it. Yeah. Maybe
but the use cases are multiple. Definitely, the use cases are multiple. Testing is already interesting. As soon as I hear some pain points, I'm already eager to see how can we implement such a solution. But again, I didn't put too much high hopes on Playwright as well. But let's see if we can come up with some solution in order to test different constellations of dynamics and database, because this is actually what, if I gain a lot from this talk, this is definitely what I gain. Like the two systems are tightly coupled, but the infrastructure are can be pretty tricky in terms of testing. So,
Mhm.
which is
Sure.
quite amazing. I thought it might be a little bit more from your experiences so far. It should be a little bit more straightforward in terms of testing, but it might be a little bit more interesting, let's say.
But
Yeah,
I
challenging.
also have to say that like
And challenging.
the improvement curve over the last years is really steep. So if you look back just like 5 years or even 3 years, the amount of features and the amount of connectors and everything has greatly improved over the last couple of years already. And they are really keep pushing this topic. And I also already know a couple of companies who are switching over from different ERP systems. So they have like a dynamic system for sales or marketing or field service maybe. And then they are switching their ERP system even on Dynamics just to have the advantage of having everything in Dataverse, everything already connected. It makes integrations easier. It makes especially if you want to reach people outside of the system, way easier because you can use all these Power Platform functions to give people access to information that don't need to be in the system
True.
via Teams and everything. So I assume that there will be like major improvements over the next couple of years again to address these issues because they are starting to address a lot of these like government issues because so many companies just threw Power Platform in on their users. Oh, it's low code, nice. You have an IT that doesn't know or doesn't have time to figure out what it is, and they just like throw it out there, and then they end up with like the university with hundreds of apps, and nobody knows what's going on there. And then you get the complaints, and that's what they're addressing like right now.
Yeah, true. And Sebastian, one nice story I heard from someone else. Okay, so it's not my client. It's one of the major beer brands in Europe. I won't tell you what it was. Um, and they set up teams to administer Power Platform, and they assigned some sort of a product owner for Power Platform for low code. It was a she. When she came, then well, first let's draw up what's already there. 20,000 apps worldwide. 20,000 apps without DOP policies, etc. So first they draw a plan of the next 4 years to get rid of those apps, and to transfer those apps to the proper Power Platform environment with the proper DOP policies. This is what can happen
Yes.
if you don't do it properly.
Yes.
20,000 apps. Good luck.
Yes.
That's a lot of money.
My wife actually works in a Power Platform team now, and they had pretty much like no team before, and they had like just a few government rules, but they had multiple times where they hired external people to do a software project, developed a custom solution for their business. We are talking about like huge German company here. Very expensive custom solution, cost a couple €100,000, only to find out that when they then present their solution on like a town hall or something, the other sub companies like, oh, we had the same problem, and this guy over there, he just built a Power App for that, and it's already solved. And they're like, oh my god, we are so stupid. We paid like 200K for a solution that this guy then just already had built, obviously not as quite as polished and nice, but it was working, and they didn't care at the end, right? So, and that's it happened like multiple times, and then they were like, okay, we have to set up a team that does like the whole governance part, that set up rules, that creates a community within the company, so you have synergies between people like key users and citizen developers and everything. So yes, and that's only like these kind of developments are only coming up in the last few years, at least from what I'm seeing in my peers. Because it was overlooked for quite some time. And it was just like being used by all kinds of departments without any overwatch from a lot of IT departments.
I think it's also because of the rise of Power Platform that those community-driven initiatives are more relevant now.
Yes.
And they Well, Microsoft told you should do this, you should do that. But many companies were just pushing out Power Platform like, no, we're not ready for that. And now it seems that they're ready for it. Okay, and you should have a proper policy in place. Your community should be in place, etc. And also your cost management should be in place because Power Platform can also cost a lot of money if you don't do it properly. The other thing you mentioned, like Microsoft did so much on the Power Platform, leveraging in with all type of functionalities, especially last 6 months. I see that so much is coming to the Power Platform, and also all type of tools to administer the whole Power Platform to make sure you're in control. It's getting way more professional compared to 3 or 5 years ago. It's really a nice platform. Yeah.
Yes, like quality of life has improved big time. I'm over like the last, I don't know, since Power Platform, I think 2018. At the start, I mainly used Power Automate because it's fitting in Dynamics
everyone was
perfectly,
using
right?
Power Automate. Yeah.
And I just built like maybe like one Canvas app per year, and then during COVID, not so much because I had different projects, and then I came back in like last year to build like Canvas apps, and it was like already completely different, 10 times easier.
Yeah.
And I was like mind blown how far they got already in such a short time. So yes, yeah.
The last thing I want to mention is the following, that I think that if you're developing apps, and especially of course Canvas apps, it should be good looking for the end user. It should be professional for the end user. So I sent my team to a UX UI training, and specifically developed for our platform. So I said, you don't need to talk about Java software and UX UI because we don't build it. We build then low code and Power Platform. So they were on a 4-day course, and which was really helpful. But I really would like that Microsoft pushes more towards being able to create Canvas apps that are really professional looking. The theming now is not okay.
Yes, I would love to have like a great theming template with way more options and a better design options. Like you can do like a lot of customization in that area, but it's so tedious. And often you don't have the time in projects, especially since my projects are all internally. And ironically, I'm a way harsher judge on myself and on those things that I build than my users. They are usually happy with just having the functions and the features, right? You just give them the function that they ask for, and they're just running off, and they are happy. They don't care if it looks bad. But I can't look at my own app then, especially like the
No,
early
it's logical. They will use to Excel, and then I get an app.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Functionality
I mean,
first, look and feel later.
The theme for my projects and Power Platform projects have always been, of course, like the behind the scene flows, people don't notice, right? It's, there for them, it's just magic. It's just, all these statuses are updating themselves automatically. That's nice, but that they don't notice after a few days. But then you build like a huge project with like AI and validation and whatever, all kinds of stuff. And they're like, yeah, nice. But then you give them like a small app with a cool feature. Like, for example, we have people in Japan that actually go into hardware stores and document how our tablets are like on the shelf, or how the example tablets are presented and everything. And they take pictures. And that was like super tedious for them because they had like paper protocols that they had to write and then like take pictures and then upload the pictures to a file storage and then include the link in an email, blah, blah, blah. And I just did like a Canvas app for them where they can just like enter the stuff and then take a picture, boom, everything goes into Dynamics. And the app looks so bad, but they're like the most happy users I've ever seen in my life. And it took me like maybe 2 days to just put this together because it's just the form and the photo function and the connector to Dynamics, and that's it, right? So the super mini project, that is like creating so much like visibility, light tower kind of project. And you are like, this is like the shortest project I've done in a while. It's just like pretty much
I've
like
got
a
an
side
example for that
project.
too, and then I really need to quit. You know, salespeople, they hate D365 CE or whatever, you know, CRM, because they need to enter data and they just want to talk and have a coffee with all those opportunities. So the moment they get in a car, get at their desk, they don't want to enter data. They want to go to the next opportunity. Okay.
Yes.
So what I built for them was a simple solution. Okay. It connects to CRM. It shows your appointments. You select your appointment. You click the button, threads, opportunities, and other stuff. You click on the button, which is one button, and you start talking. Okay. They do it in a car and they start talking. Goes to Azure OpenAI, translates it because everything needs to be stored in English. And it automatically creates the tasks and a summary of the meeting in threads, opportunities, etc. It looks not too good, you know. It's just like, okay, I also didn't have much time, but they are so happy with it.
Yes.
And
That
they're
sounds
so proud.
fantastic.
They go on parties and show the app like, hey, listen. And they start talking. Now, wait, here's the text. And then it automatically creates structured text. And I'm like, oh God, don't show it to others, you know.
I think the impact is definitely showing when you know that for this task you took literally, let's say 1, 2, 3, or let's say 30 minutes to 1 hour, and you do it just like this in 5 minutes, you're already done. It's a no-brainer.
Yes. Yes, that's why I like using adaptive cards to just show like focused important information and do it in a process to people that are usually not that much in the system. And I would love for Microsoft to improve adaptive cards functionality because I think it's such an overlooked feature. It's perfect if you have people that are like a couple of times a month in the system, and that's why they don't know the system that well. And for them, they usually just have like 1 or 2 steps in the process. And if I can hand them that via adaptive cards, or especially if you have a team of people that are working on certain topics, just post it in their channel and then the person picks it up and runs with it. I would love to like have improvements on that because that has been the best tool for me to get people that are not so much in the system more engaged and like ease their administrative pressure. So yeah.
Yeah, my last comment to that is absolutely agree. But the other thing is sometimes it's a bit overwhelming what type of features Microsoft offers with their Office 365 platform. It's really overwhelming. Adaptive card, loop components, blah, 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 blah. And information is coming to you in so many ways that it might also be a bit overwhelming. I really need to go now. It was nice talking to you.
No, thank you guys for turning up. I'm going to wrap it up as well. I hope that you guys did take something from this. I appreciate all the knowledge and experience that was shared as well. No, I really appreciate it, guys.
Yes. Thank you,
Welcome.
guys. That was great.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I loved it. Thank you.
No
Take care.
problem. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.